Everyone, this is your host, Said, with Messy Growth. So today's guest is seeing growth from every angle: scrappy startups, hyper growth, scale ups, and billion-dollar brands. She's a fractional CMO and go-to-market advisors who parachutes in when growth stalls or your pipeline dries up. Or go-to-market starts feeling messy. She's worked hands-on with seed to Series A founders, helped companies go from zero to traction, and scale demand engines without burning cash. But before that, she led marketing and go-to-market at companies like Shopify, McDonald's. I want to dig deeper into that. And now works as embedded like a co-founder with dozens of B2B SaaS and AI startups. What I like about her is this: she's not selling frameworks from slides. She's in the trenches, fixing real problems and real fast. So today we're going to talk about why most go-to-market strategies break down in early stage companies, what founders misunderstand about marketing versus revenue, when more demand is the wrong answer, and how to build a growth engine that actually converts. No fluff, no theory, just what works. I'm excited to welcome Rashel Hariri to Messy Growth. Rashel, thank you so much.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to kick off this call.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm doing a lot of research before talking to you, and your profile is stellar. I mean, there's just so much experience here, and I want to, as much as I possibly can, I'll try to
Yeah,
squeeze it out of it within the next
we'll
hour,
dig in.
right? But I want to ask you first question. My
Yeah.
kids will kill me if I didn't. You spent 4.5 years at McDonald's, two and a half, over 2 years at Shopify, billion-dollar brands with massive budgets. Then you went fractional, working with scrappy startups that have maybe 50K for all marketing. What's the one thing you had to completely unlearn from big corp that would have killed you in startups?
Yeah, I think I'm going to reframe your question a bit here. So in my career, although you see these big brands and big companies, every single job I've had since I started my career 17 years ago, I've started with nothing and had to build that department or the team. So a lot of what I'd done and what prepped me to go and work for startups was because when I, for example, worked in financial services and I was at the bank, I was like at an unbank and everything was digital. You didn't have to go into you didn't have to go into the bank itself. All of that, I walked in with nothing and had to build from the ground up. What are processes? What are the systems? What do we share online? What do we do from our marketing? None of that existed. And same with when I went to McDonald's. I joined within 6 months of being there was a full digital transformation of the company. So the global CEO at the time, Steve Easterbrook, said every single market must go digital, which was perfect timing for me because that was my background and my expertise. Built that from the ground up. I was hired number one on the digital team for McDonald's Canada. It was me and my boss. By the time I left, I think there was about 12 employees on that team, and we were disrupting the company internally. And when I went to Shopify, same thing. They had social media, but needed someone to build from the ground up again. And so that was part of the task. And so I think a lot of that experience, although being at these big companies, is what led me to go to startups. And I'll be honest, when I was at McDonald's, we didn't have a big budget to begin with. That first year, we
Right.
were running around asking other departments if we could please have some of your budget so that we can do testing and digital ads. I mean, it's crazy. When I first walked in the doors of McDonald's, I go, "Okay, where's like the web team? Where's the team that's going to help me do stuff on the website or digital?" And they're like, "We don't have that. We work with an agency." None of these things existed. And so we had to build from the ground up. And I think that prepares you for going to startups because although some process may be in place, a lot of it doesn't exist. So you walk in there and you look around and you go, okay, what do we have? What do we not
Yeah.
have? What are the things that are essential for the next 6 months? And let's focus on those.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's interesting you say that you're in McDonald's, you start working there, small team, and you were asking different departments for budgets. I guess when folks look at for Shopify, McDonald's, and OpenAI's of the world, they feel like that all those companies have their shit together, so to speak. Is that
No.
never the case, or is it mostly because of the fact that they are large corporations? People would think that they do, but it's usually just a startup in disguise.
I think that is the external perception. And internally, the company is always trying to figure things out. So, for example, the time when I was at McDonald's, I was tasked with building our brand amongst Gen Z and millennials. So, this was from 2014 to 2019. That's while I was there, and so that was my job, figure out what do people want, what do they care about, how do we get them to come back into our restaurants versus at the time going to Chipotle, which was really popular. So as you're working in these companies, you realize the society's evolving and changing, and your business always has to keep up with that, regardless of being a startup in a very saturated, fast-paced tech environment, or whether you're food and beverage or you're in the e-commerce space. Things are changing, and you need to keep up with it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's interesting. Your tagline says you help founders when growth stalls, go to market
Mhm.
feels messy, or sales are not converting. What's the pattern you keep seeing that causes all three of those to happen at once?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like looking at a stool. There's like the 3 steps of a stool, and so much of it has to do with ICP and product. So oftentimes there's no product market fit, right? So founders are trying to decide, all right, I'm bringing my product to market. Sales are not going the way that we want them to. We know we've got a great product, but why can't I sell? And so we figure out, all right, is it the messaging? Is it your value props? What's not really resonating with your ideal customer? Or sometimes maybe you need to shift what your ICP looks like and who the key decision maker is to purchase your product. And so this is all of this coming together is where I find a lot of cracks in the GTM for startups. Typically, when I work with startups, there's like a CTO, a COO, a CEO, and there's no go-to-market marketing person. It's usually the COO gets stuck with the task, and so they're thinking, I just need to get this thing in market. I need people to know about it, but they don't have a full strategy, or they haven't done the work to really dig into competitive and market intelligence. They haven't done the work to dig into, how does the product appear in market and are people using it in the way that you intended for them to use it? What are the key values and levers that make you stand out amongst anybody else? And I think the problem is sometimes when you talk to founders, they're so in love with their product and they're so proud of it that they don't
Enamored.
see
Yeah.
that sometimes it may look
Yeah.
just like something else. And so that's where we really need the marketing to do the hard work to really differentiate you. And it could be even something as simple as your pricing structure is different. It could be the solution that you're solving is a little bit more complex than what your competitor does. And so that could be your creative edge in the market.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and one of the main components was now with the introduction of AI. I think a lot of folks can go to market fairly quickly in terms of building a product. If you have an idea, you can bring it to life, I think, fairly overnight. And if you
Mhm.
happen to be fairly advanced in developing or development, you can generally go even further than
Sure.
that. Do you think, or do you feel like that now, when with the barriers of entry being so low in the world of SaaS, apps, buildings, that distribution is more important than ever before? That this is not some job that you can just punt it over to a COO to just go ahead and figure out. This needs to be right front and center, because when everybody's got an app and everybody's building a business and everybody can do that fairly quickly, your advantage is, of course, being out there and fixing distribution.
Yeah, I think distribution is a key part of it. I also think early ambassadors, if you're building a SaaS product, and early users and adoption and bringing people in and really building a community around your product is critical in my opinion. There's there's a lot in there's a lot out there right now. And I pause and I think about that because there's so much tech and so much of it is useless. And I'll be completely honest about that. And I'm sure you've seen it. Every other day, there's a new AI tool that's promising you, 7 figures in 3 months. And it's
Of
just not
course.
possible. There's no hack to hard work other than discipline. And that is, I think, the most important thing is if you're building a product, you have to stay focused. You have to maintain what makes your product great. You need to continuously build on your product and bring it to market in a way that's very unique and involves your actual users. We see a lot of AI slop out there, especially in the marketing space, and it drives me nuts. But a lot of that stuff, in my opinion, this year is going to go away. We're going to see people that are actually creative, that have good ideas, that are building in public in a way that's not AI slop, because people can tell the difference. And that's what's going to get more attention for your product. I do think founders are the first salespeople in their company. And so they should be present on LinkedIn, especially in a saturated market like right now, where everyone's trying to build something. It's really your unique reputation that's going to get you from 0 to point 0.5.
Mhm.
And then you start to build that GTM engine afterwards.
Yeah, you mentioned something about AI slop, and a lot of folks are now parsing everything through an LLM. Do you think
Mhm.
we as a society have made it acceptable where we, if you come from a background of authority, let's say you are a CEO of X or whatever, if you're using AI slop, that's okay. But for the common folk, such as myself, you can't go ahead and use AI slop. Do you think there is a distinction, or do you think across the board it's hated when folks go ahead and just dump information and try to think of it and fake it as thought leadership, so to speak?
Yeah, I think across the board. I mean, whether you're one of the owners of a big tech company or you're me and you on LinkedIn, people can tell the difference. And I think what what I was thinking about the other day is actually kind of funny. I had this thought and I was sharing it with a friend. I think my writing is starting to look like ChatGPT because it's so much of what I'm seeing online. And it always says like, it's not this, it's that, right? You see that a lot in the posts on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh my God, I'm doing that because that's what I'm now really engaged with is like it's in my brain. And so I
Right.
think to your point, across the board, there's too much of it. I see it as very much a journey from a year ago to now. ChatGPT was such a time saver. Everybody loved it. It helped you to get your creative ideas out on paper faster, right? Now it's gotten to the point where people are just trying to hack it using AI to then do the creative work. We as humans, we're the ones, like I'm the one that has 17 years of experience in the marketing and digital space. I need to get my ideas and my input. And if I need help with writing, I then put that into ChatGPT to help me refine some of that to
Yeah.
brainstorm. But you should not just be like, hey, ChatGPT, I want to write a blog post about go to market strategy. Can you write it for me? And make sure to use these three keywords to make
Mm.
sure that I rank in SEO.
Yeah.
That's where you actually start to see the AI slop, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah. And I think what you said in the beginning was absolutely correct. There is no shortcut to hard work. There's no substitute to it. It's just patience and a lot of, have to be consistent for the most part. And like I said, asking ChatGPT or Claude to go ahead and write a blog post for you is probably the most laziest thing. And it will hallucinate. It will just not, you will
Yeah.
not have that uniqueness, so to speak, when you're writing that. And that piece
Yeah.
of content will, even if you write up 100 pieces of content and 10 of them are written by ChatGPT, that already casts a dark shadow over pretty much all of the content that you have gone ahead and created.
Mhm.
So probably not the best road to go ahead and take. Um, I want to talk about you, like your motion, how you help different companies. And one of the patterns that kept coming up when I was researching, of course, trying to have our conversation is like most founders, they kind of feel like they need a full-time CMO when they hit Series A.
Mhm.
You're fractional, part-time, multiple different clients, a lot more flexibility. If you were asked to make the case for why fractional is actually better than that for early stage companies, is there something at all founders miss when they hire full time too early, or do you feel like that fractional is the way to go because it just gives you a lot more freedom, not only to you, but of course to the company, should things
Yeah.
go awry?
I think that's a great question. I always lean on the side of bring in a fractional first to help you make those initial decisions. And then once you get to a point where it becomes very obvious that you need a full time person, then that's when the role of the fractional is to either phase themselves out or continue with the team as like an advisor level where they're not there day to day, but they continue to support that new person that's starting. That's
Right.
sort of the model that I bring to market and I do with founders and the companies that I work with. Because number one, in the early stages, you may not need a full time marketing person, but you need someone that's going to help you for 6 months get the first three steps of the business going.
Right.
That person's going to bring in based on their network, if they have writers, if they have devs, if they have brand designers, to quickly help you move things forward in such a fast paced environment. Once you get to a point where you're like, okay, we're seeing that things are growing really quickly, we now are realizing that we actually need more hands on the team that are here regularly to churn out marketing. That's when you go, okay, so as the fractional CMO, I start going, all right, these are the roles that I think we need to hire for.
Yeah.
These are the people that I think are going to help you over the next year. And then from that, I start to see, all right, now these roles need more hand holding from me. These junior roles need someone that's there more regularly, someone who's helping them with their personal development plans and all of these things. KPI indications that are for the team on a weekly basis. And if I can't give you that time because I have four other clients and
Mm.
I'm seeing that your business is growing really quickly, let's take a step back and bring in a full time marketing hire. Also, in the beginning stages, if you've just raised a seed round of, let's say, $2 million, hiring a full time CMO is going to be very expensive. Think about the
Oh yeah.
benefits, think about like the monthly cost of this person. And then you also need to give them a marketing budget to then execute and get tools and software and build their GTM stack. So that's really the way that I talk to founders and I think you get to a point where it's inevitable. Like the business is going to grow so big that you have to have a full-time team, but in the early
Yeah.
stages you don't need it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so I think it's just about prioritization, right? And costs obviously being a big part to consider on that. So you've
Mhm.
worked with a tens of startups across different stages. What's the most common marketing mistake that seed stage founders make that Series A founders don't, and vice versa? Is there something that Series A companies do that screws up what was working at seed?
I think it's there's not one particular thing, but now that I'm thinking back to it, I've had chats with a lot of founders who started advertising too early. So they thought the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do an ad campaign and I'm going to do Google or Meta or, like LinkedIn ads, which are very expensive. And they just hire an agency without having a strategy. And so that's usually where I come in and go, wow, you guys spent $100,000 on ads last year and you only saw, this like 3 or 4 leads a month. That's crazy
Wow.
talk. So what I work on with them is actually taking a step back, building a holistic strategy and explaining to them, like, if you're in the B2B space and you are a SaaS product with maybe a service arm, maybe you don't need to do ads. Maybe what you need to do is events. Maybe you need to build that community layer. Maybe you need to do partnerships. Maybe you need to connect with other adjacent SaaS products and build referral engines. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of other things that you can be doing first. But I think when people think marketing, they think ads. And so they go and hire these agencies. And not to knock the agencies, but the reality is, if I'm hiring an agency, I know the agency's only looking at the metrics from an ads perspective. How much traffic did
Sure.
I send to your website? How much traffic did I send to that lead generation page? That's all they care about. They're not really thinking, hey, I sent all this traffic, but then what happens afterwards when it's actually in your CRM? How many people actually signed up? What was the quality of those? So that's what I find is a lot of the rudimentary issues that I see with startups. And some founders get it and they go, I don't want to do ads. I hate ads. And those are my people.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a very famous quote from the 40s or 50s, don't recall which era it was. This person goes, I think he was a marketing exec, that half of the advertising spent that I spent goes to waste. I just don't know which half. Um,
Very
advertising is a
true.
pretty icky game,
Yeah.
and especially if you're just dumping cash. And like you said, if you're the agency is just going to go ahead and spend that money happily. They're
Yeah.
commission based, but what you're getting in return, it requires a little deeper down analysis in terms of whether or not it's worth spending that money or not.
Yeah. And also
Um,
just to add to that before we move on,
mm,
it's if you don't have your proper value props and messaging in place, then you're spending all this money in ads and you don't even know, like, sure, it's getting you traffic, but it could be the wrong people, as we mentioned, but also you could be
exactly.
pushing the wrong features of your product or the
Yeah.
wrong things in market. So again, you're just wasting time. And then a year later, 6 months later, you're going to go be like, well, marketing didn't work. Well, marketing
Yeah.
does work. You just pulled the wrong lever.
Yeah. 100%. It's something interesting that I was going through your profile and you say, I work fast and embed deep like a co-founder with marketing superpower. That sounds really intense considering I've been in roles where I had to start things from scratch. How do you avoid becoming a crutch where the founder can't make marketing decisions without you once you leave for the most part?
Yeah, I think the handoff process is really important. I think documenting everything and having systems in place is the best way to do it. My goal is to get in there and help as much as possible to progress and move things forward. But I know that my time is limited. I mean, when you go into the fractional space, you know that you're not meant to work with your clients for 5 years. If you
Right.
are, that's very strange. I haven't heard of that before. But so
I mean,
you're
that's
you're
not fractional anymore.
right, it's something else, I don't know, but the whole idea is, I'm doing this work because I wanna help you, and I think that your business can do really well, and in order for me to do that, I have the experience and the skill set to help you understand how to build those processes and systems in place, how to
Right.
document what's important, and have that proper governance in place so that when there is a time where you don't really need me anymore, I can say, "Hey, here's all of the things, let's do a proper handoff, let's get the marketing hire in place, and we can have a smooth transition once that happens."
Yeah, absolutely. Could you walk me through what a messy go-to-market actually looks like when a founder comes to you and says, "Hey, our go-to-market isn't working"? What are 2 to 3 things that are almost always broken under the hood?
I think that there this could vary so much. Specifics are if the marketing and sales are not totally aligned and connected, and so they're trying to experiment with different things on the marketing side, and let's say they're doing content specific work, and sales is doing something completely different, and the
Right.
messaging isn't the same because sales is saying, "Hey, I'm meeting with people one on one, and I'm selling to them." Let's say they're selling to enterprise clients or some B2B companies, they have their own messaging, but it's not being shared back with marketing because they're moving so fast. And then sales is also saying, well, let's say we're only a team of 2 people. We got a BDR here.
Yeah.
We don't have time. We don't have time to wait for someone to figure out what we should be talking about. We use the product every day and we just need to go out there and sell it. So some of that is like the initial internal dynamics of needing to move fast and prove themselves and prove the product. Some other things are just tooling, right? Like maybe they've selected the wrong tools.
Right.
Maybe they are using a really expensive HubSpot account and they don't need that at the stage that they're at.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's sort of walking founders off the ledge to say, hey, I know this is what sounds like best practice, but at your stage right now, let's save you the money. Let's do, this other path. And then once you're ready, we'll take you and we'll use that HubSpot or we'll take you to Salesforce, but you're not there yet right now. That's a part of the messy GTM. And I also think with right now, we're seeing a lot of these AI tools and outbound motions. And so some folks will just say, yeah, we set it up. We sent like 10,000 emails and it's not working and I don't understand what's going on. And you go, well, we have to do the foundational work, right? Let's start from like, is your ICP what it should be? Have we defined that? Do we know what we're saying to these people? A lot of my work is like, let's start from the foundations again and build up. Start from the foundations and build up. And as you're building up, you experiment and you test with different messages to see what resonates and works. You're looking at your lead generation flows, which one is bringing in the best quality of your ICP, which one of your marketing levers makes sense, how many people actually sign on from your sales. So there's a lot of mess that can happen in there. And I think um, when founders are not familiar with the strategic side of things, they go, well, I can just hop on instantly and Clay, right? That's the best way to do it. And
Of
so there's
course.
a lot of support that they require at that time.
Yeah, yeah. And this seems like, I think what I said in the beginning is a very intense role because not only, I mean, you're coming in as a fractional person, so the founder has to rely a lot on your expertise, but you have to navigate through the minds that a typical full-time role person wouldn't have to, right? Because you have a limited amount of time, you want to get the results, all eyes are on you. And it seems very intense. Like, hey, maybe this is something that's not the right thing to do, or spend money on clay, or do that. And your ICP is not figured out. It seems it's not as easy as I think a lot of folks say it is, which is like go fractional. You get to have fun, you get to work on your own terms. Spend any time you want to. You can just spend on that if you feel like going on a walk. Yeah, but it's not that easy because you're now
Yeah.
more poised to actually have to deliver results because of the fact that you're fractional. There's more time pressure. There's more results pressure, and so on and so forth. So I assume that it's not as dream as people make it out to be.
No.
More companies means more time you have to be right, more strategies have to go right, and more things have to go in your way.
Well, also the mental load, right? Like if you're working embedded this deeply with several companies, your brain is firing on all cylinders and you're thinking about, all right, what do I got to do next for this
Right.
company? What's working? What's not? Who do I need to hire? What freelancers do I need to bring in? There's a lot that goes into it. And I think fractional is not for everybody. And I say that if you don't thrive in that kind of environment where there's a lot happening with different clients, different personalities, different people that you actually need to manage as a fractional. It's not for everyone. I've heard of many people that have gone the fractional route and said, I just didn't want to do it anymore because it's not even just the work, but also if you think about it as a fractional, you're also managing your personal brand, your business development, your
Yes.
proposals. So you are running a full business, and typically it's by yourself unless you've partnered with another fractional or you have a collective or a group. But you're doing all of this and maintaining your actual work. And so it's not for everyone. Some people say, I just want to focus on one thing at a time. And I think that's great. That's also a
Yeah.
really good option, right?
Get a
Maybe one
job.
day that's what I'll end up doing. We'll see. But for
Yeah.
now, I think fractional is great. It's the best for me.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think like fact that you know it, what is it that you want, and you're enjoying and learning. That's the most critical component at the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
In any role for succeeding.
Yeah.
Um, So you've been in the room with a lot of founders right after they've received funding or raised funding, excuse me. What's the first thing they want to spend marketing budget on, and what should they actually be spending it on instead?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. Some people assume, let's go get ads. Like we
Ads.
got the money, let's go spend it. And so what I often say is, well, let's focus on infrastructure first.
Mm.
If we're building a beautiful house or, in some cases we want to build a mansion, we need to figure out what's on the ground floor first and how
Mm.
do we do this? Like, do we need to set up something as simple as do we have nurture sequences?
Yeah.
Right? Do we have email outbound? Do we have proper lead pages on the website? Is the
Mm.
messaging correct? Does the branding look right? Now that you're, let's say, a seed stage company or a series A and your cousin built your website, maybe now it's time for us to elevate the brand a little bit more. Also looking at if it's community based, how do we bring in the right people? How do we bring in ambassadors? Let's say, for example, on LinkedIn, people that have a good, strong following and they would be great users of our product. How do we get those people on board? How do we sell them and get them excited just like we are? So there's a lot of thought that goes into what we need to do first. But I think it's always, let's just take a step back and pause. Founders are go, go, go. They don't have time to waste. And so the first thing for me, which I have to be like, we need to pause. You need to give me 2 weeks. I got to do an audit. I have to see what's going on, what's working, what's broken, what's not. And then I guarantee you things are going to get a lot smoother from here.
Yeah, 100%. As long as I've been working in SaaS, I've noticed that there is a commotion between sales and marketing. I'm assuming a lot of founders hire you when sales are not converting. In your experience, how often is that actually a sales problem versus a marketing problem? Like, how do you tell the difference between all of that without pissing off the head of sales or VP or director?
I think it depends, right? It's so unique. Each case is, I don't want to point the finger at anybody, but
Please feel free to do that. Just don't give names.
that's what this is all about, right? Finger pointing. No, so it depends. Each company is different. Where I think things break is I look at it holistically, right? When I'm going in there, I know that whether it's marketing, an ad, a private dinner or event we're having with our ICP to what our sales team is doing, we're talking to humans. We're often talking to the same person who's going to see what we posted on
Right.
LinkedIn that then went to our blog to get more details that then ended up on our lead page that signed up for a call, right? That's all the same. I think the old school way of looking at marketing, which is the marketing funnel versus sales, that doesn't exist anymore. And we know that the way technology is advanced and people are looking for information and just going straight to Chat GPT and asking, hey, I need this, list me the top 5 tools available for that are going to help my business. They're going about things very different. And so the way that I look at it is we need to be defensible in all areas, whether it's our marketing, our SEO, GEO, AEO strategy, all the way to what happens on a sales call and what that sales process looks like. More recently with clients over the last year, what I've been doing is helping them with the GTM strategy and then actually doing sales auditing for them. So I go into their HubSpot, I'm picking
Cool.
certain contacts and companies, checking those emails. I'm seeing how long it takes you between emails, what you're saying in those emails. I'm asking my clients to send me the calls, and then I'm providing training on that. So no one can hide. And
Yeah,
sales
salespeople are
can't
very
point the finger at
territorial.
marketing. Right? Half the time you don't know what's going on in those sales calls.
Yeah,
So that's what I look
yeah,
at now more
yeah.
holistically is I'm zooming out and I'm really interested in that space because I think there's a lot of great impact that can happen right away. And some of my clients have seen their highest sales months ever after me being super embedded, not just on the marketing side, but sales as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like most of the salespeople actually need a lot of coaching because they kind of feel like they're being reactive to everything, like calls, demos, emails that are coming in. Oh yeah, we got her. We are closing deals, right? Because there's such a short loop. So everything is good. Yeah, but like you're closing deals, that's great. But what percentage? Where could you actually go out and improve? And since they're very territorial and there's a lot of testosterone in the room, it always like you're in my HubSpot, you're checking my email. God damn. I
Yeah.
do understand that angst, but it's exactly what it's needed. It's the coaching that is needed
Yeah.
to help the teams and companies to improve. So I fully understand that part. Um, I do want to ask you about something, which is a lot of startups, they think of product market fit. I've heard this term so many times. And a lot of folks, when they say product market fit, what they're basically just saying is that some people are paying us money for the product. But you work on positioning and go to market. All right. So what's your definition of an actual product market fit from a marketing lens and not a product lens?
Yeah. I think for me, it's more of that repeatability. That's what I really would count as product market fit. You see some companies they do incredibly well with VCs, right? The VCs love the founder and they continue to raise Series B, Series
Mm.
C, Series D, and that's great. There's this like never ending pot of money that's flowing to them.
Yeah.
But the fact that you need to keep running your business in this way and going back to venture capitalists and giving up and diluting your own equity to get more support for your business shows me that maybe there is something rocky. But I do think it's that repeatable motion of let's look at our numbers. Let's look at how many inbounds we're getting. Let's look at what we are putting out into market, and let's see the sign up rate. Do people continue to sign up? Is it month over month? Is it year over year? How do we make sure that we're not losing our existing customers and that we're kind of adding to the bucket? Kind of like that leaky bucket. If we keep looks like we're adding and people are dropping off and the churn rate is really high, that signals to me that something is not right. You can spend millions of dollars on marketing and make it look so
Yeah.
shiny and so cool and get a bunch of people to sign up, and then you realize, oh, there's not much substance here. And actually, a funny story that happened to me with a company that I was working with when I first started Fractional. It was like a one-click checkout company. And I think they had raised about $150 million. They got people from Salesforce, top leaders, really smart people to join the company. And I remember talking to the founder at the time and saying, hey, because they wanted me to join full time and I wasn't interested in that opportunity. But I kept asking and poking around about the product roadmap. And there wasn't a clear product roadmap. And that to me was an issue because I go, well, how do you get product market fit if you're not continuously evolving your features and your
Yeah.
product and your sign up rates are stalled? So that in itself was a sign that there is no product market fit. And unfortunately, that company didn't last very long either.
But wow. And it reminds me of that juicer company. I don't know if you know that. It was a juicer. So they built that juicer, right? And I think they spent like $200-300 million at that. And essentially the premise was you could put in pouches in there of juice and that machine would just squeeze that pouch out. And folks started realizing, why do we need a machine for that? We could just poke a hole in there and squeeze that thing out. It's not like it adds any gas in there
Yeah.
or makes it a little bit more tasty or anything. And it's just the whole thing shut down, $400 million
Wow.
debacle, right? It's just like you don't know what you don't know at the end of it, I guess.
Yes.
Um, so you're on my YouTube now.
Mhm.
I was consuming your content before speaking to you. So you run She's Interesting, a platform for
Yep.
women entrepreneurs over 30. That's a specific demographic, and I want to get to that. Is
Mhm.
it because for folks over 30, their stories become more interesting or valuable? And the reason why I'm asking is a lot of the content that I see on the sphere, there's like a lot of young people I know that have spent maybe 2 to 3 years in SaaS and are all of a sudden now experts in outbound and go to market, and they have their
Yeah.
own agencies and they have their own companies. And cynic in me looks at it and go, sure, okay, maybe there is plausibility in there for the most part, but a lot of this is just gained with experience. So that kind of like when I was writing this question down and that popped up in my head
Mhm.
is that after 30 you have some accolades, you have some battle scars to show for all the work that you have done. Is that why that demographic, or you kind of feel like that it's because just, well, that's what I was interested in, I want to speak to folks?
Yeah, I mean, so I started She's Interesting in 2023. And at that time, now the market, I find it has a lot more of this type of content, targeting women, highly ambitious women
Right.
that are in the business space, right? Look at things like Emma Greedy launched her podcast. There's so many people that are out there. But when I started in 2023, I looked around and I couldn't see stories of people that I found interesting. I was online quite a lot. And to your point, I was seeing a lot of younger creators, which is great.
Right.
Like you have
Sure.
there's a dynamic or a demographic for everybody. But I wasn't seeing enough from women in business. I was seeing a lot of these guys sitting in front of like probably rented Ferraris and saying, this is how I made $1 million and this is how you're going to do it. And I thought that's total BS. And I'm not watching this. I'm not learning from you. Like, what is this crap? And so I decided if I can't find the content that I want, I'm going to make it myself. And so I gathered a group of incredibly smart, successful women and I interviewed them from venture capitalists to founders to, like Haley Bogart, which was one of my most popular episodes. She runs HB Face. She has a franchise for her eyebrow salon and she's doing
Wow.
amazing. She's like multi 7-figure company. So
Whoa.
that's what I wanted. I wanted to hear their stories. I also wanted to understand their pedigree and where they came from and how they got to where they are. A lot of the stories that we see online of very successful people, unfortunately, they had an upper hand and they had more privilege in their life. And so, with these stories of these women, I always started with where did you come from? How did you get to where you are? And then let's talk about what you did with your business. I think the full story and journey of someone's life helps to really, for you to understand how they got to where they did. And that's where the learning happens for most people. A lot of the podcasts were just, to be honest, interviewing men and their experiences. And the reality is, when women walk into a boardroom and a man walks into a boardroom, women have to work a little bit harder to gain that trust and respect. And so
Why
that's
is that?
I think it's just social dynamics. Unfortunately, it's a system of our society. I don't think that it means one person's more qualified than the other, but it's just, optics and internal undiagnosed bias that people have, even though they may sometimes feel like they don't. It's kind of like when you speak to someone with an accent, a British accent, all of a sudden they could be saying the same thing I am, but it starts to sound a lot more witty and smart. That's kind of how I break it down. And so long story short, or long story long, that's why I started She's Interesting, and I focused on women 30 plus because there wasn't enough content highlighting those voices.
Yeah. I mean, I like your content. I think you should continue. Um, you know, it is a topic that bothers me quite a lot because I have a
Mhm.
daughter and she's growing up, and I often think and struggle with that. Is that like, would there be a point in time when both the genders are looked at equally? And I try to do it as much as I can with this podcast thing or whatever. Like I
Mhm.
realize pretty quickly, I think 7 or 8 episodes in, and my wife was like, "You only talk to dudes." Like, yeah, that's my network. I like
Yeah.
the people who would say yes. She's like, yes, but what about what about the other half?
Mm.
They have a
Yeah.
story to tell, maybe even better story than a lot of the folks that actually get a lot of the limelight. And that was like a click for me. Not that I was trying to do it consciously, but then I like changed that to the point. I think it's like 75% are just all women talking because
Yeah.
why not? Like, they have an incredible story to tell, oftentimes a
Yeah.
lot better than a
Yeah.
lot of the dudes that are out there. So I think you're
I
doing
think
great work
that's
in it.
I think that's great. And sorry to interrupt. I wanted
No,
to
please.
just highlight that because that's exactly what I mean, right? Another thing I noticed was, well, I mean, the facts are there. Less than 2% of women get venture capital funding. And a lot of this comes down to who you know. And so when it is unfortunately a boys' club, and not to say that it's done that way on purpose, like in your example, you just, if it's not top of mind, if it's not something that you
It wasn't.
experience, it's not something that's going to be on your mind until someone tells you and then you reflect on it. And so that's part of it as well is I was seeing so many men that I know be like, "Oh yeah, I got like all these VCs that are my friends." And cuz that's also a male dominated industry and so women
Yeah.
building tech is much more difficult to break into. And that was another reason why I thought I want to highlight these voices because it's just it's internal ways of thinking that people have or systems that you've grown up with and you don't realize it, right? And so same with you, you're like, oh, my community is all these really great guys that are super smart. Let me ask them questions. And until someone brought it to your attention, and I think this is good, and I hope that our conversation and anyone who's listening to this will reflect in their own life and say, all right, how many female founders do I know? How often do I have calls in a week with really smart women? How often do I make the effort to meet really smart, ambitious women in my network and support their journeys? So that's my call out to anyone who's listening.
Yeah.
Take note,
Yeah.
take note, right? It's kind of like that question. Name 3 women that you really respect or idolize, and they can't be your mom or your sister or your wife. And a lot of men are like, oh, I don't know. But if I ask them, name, 3 businessmen that you idolize and respect, no problem. Are you thinking about it?
I mean, I thought about it. Two names came up automatically, but
Yeah.
this is a great exercise, I think. And I truly believe that there is a bias. It's not like the bias was created yesterday. It's just that years and years of kind of like
It's inherited.
embedded in your, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly just that, right? Like, because it's just what the society's norm is. And I really like this. I think it was Gandhi who said, and I don't want to get very philosophical here, was like,
Mhm.
be the change you want to see in the world. And I think it is your responsibility equally as much as mine to be able to make sure that I have been gifted with a platform or with a great job or whatnot. It's my job, my fiduciary responsibility to now make sure that I bring the ladder down for other people to carry, especially for folks that are underrepresented, excuse me, for a lack of a
Yeah.
better way to put it in the
Oh,
in
it's
the tech
true.
community.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that should change for the most part. Um,
Mhm.
Coming back to you,
Mhm.
you've seen dozens of startups try to scale. Is there something is always when I ask a question like this, it's and I go back into asking the business question, it just I can't do it. Like I cannot do it. It's just you need a second to be able to digest that. But
Yeah.
we'll,
Okay.
we'll, we'll keep rolling. So you've seen dozens of startups try to scale. Is there something that separates one that actually hit $10 million in ARR from the ones that plateau around at 1 million or two and never break it through? Is it the product, the founder, or the market, or is it something else entirely?
I think it can be a combination of things, right? The founders need to be really focused, and they need to really, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but like dedicate their life to the craft of their business and growing that. And you really have to go all in to get to that level, right? Um, I also think that to get to that 10 million ARR plus level, you have to be a visionary thinker, but also systems based. So, how do you have a giant vision and bring your team along for that? But understanding that I need to bring in the right people who are going to manage the system for me. If I am steering this ship, I need to make sure everybody else is in place and they're doing their job, but also that we have the right KPIs in place and systems in place, that communication throughout the organization is really clear and simple. And I think that we have good culture where people want to put in the time to work at the startup and make it grow. There's a lot of things that are combined. And then, of course, there's like the more like technical side of things that the product needs to be good. It needs to be evolving. It needs to be, the market needs to be ready for it. Sometimes really great products are designed and brought to market years before anyone is going to use them. And so sometimes it's the luck of timing where you create
Yeah.
something at a time where there's like this surge of people that are looking for your product and it's just smooth sailing and it's beautiful, but that rarely happens, right? Mainly you're working against rocky waves. And so as a founder, you need to look at things holistically, dedicate your time, be focused and lead the charge. And I think I mean it's not a simple answer, but I also think that's like the $1 million question everyone's trying to figure out. How do I become successful?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you do figure it out, let us know. I think
Yep.
that would be information that could sell a lot of content for the most part. Um, a founder listening to this has 100K in their bank account and 6 months of runway. They can either hire you as a fractional CMO or hire a junior marketer full time. What do you tell them to do and why?
I tell them to hire me. I think if you are a founder and you're moving quickly and you bring someone junior, you're always going to have to manage that junior resource. The challenge is as a founder, you're trying to move quickly. And especially in the early stages of your business, just bring someone in who's done this before, who has experience, who has a network, and who can help you. Some like part of my job sometimes, without it even being in the scope of work, is I'm like a coach for the founders that I work
Right.
with, where we're
Yeah.
having conversations. And sometimes it's really deep conversations about their business, their leadership style, things that are really keeping them up at night. You're not having those conversations with an internal hire that's junior to you and only has 3, 4 years of experience. They can't provide you with that level of support. And so I think that's what's so beneficial and attractive of having a fractional, because you go, okay, I got someone who's like has so much experience and depth here. I know I can leave this part of the business to them and they will bring me in when I'm needed. I don't need to micromanage and I can be assured that things are going to go as planned. Whereas if like I'm sure you've managed junior resources before, there's a lot of coaching and support that's required.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's very lonely at the top, right? Like you can't
Mm.
really go and confer on your employees and say, well, you know what? Let's have that. It destroys the dynamic in a lot of ways. It's a very sketchy road to go down. So I fully understand and agree with what you're saying. If you
Mhm.
could fix one thing in a startup's marketing, their positioning, or their messaging, ICP, their channels, their conversion funnel, what's the one thing that has the biggest ripple effect on everything else?
Oh, that's a tough one because I think starting with your messaging has the biggest ripple effect. I mean, obviously ICP first, but let's say if ICP is something we're not looking at, I think your messaging, because if people can't tell what you do, they're not going to buy your product. If it's not clear to them, if they don't understand it, it's really difficult. One startup that I am in love with right now, I love their messaging, their positioning. I've started using the product and I'm like, I would love to have worked with these guys. Is Whisperflow. So I don't know if you've heard of this tool. You just hit
I
the
do not.
function button on your keyboard and you talk and it types for you. And it's really smart where if I say, hey, let's have a meeting on Friday at 10 a.m. Oh, I mean 11 a.m. It auto corrects that for you. I'm a
My
big
lord.
dictation user. It's so smart. I'm a big dictation user and it's always writing names wrong, like not saying exactly what I said. And so since I've been using Whisperflow and they haven't paid me, this isn't an ad or anything. I love it. Their website is so smart. Their onboarding flows are chef's kiss. They've done a really great job. And so I think messaging is everything. The way they talk about how much time is saved and how much you increase your productivity is brilliant. And I mean, like their ICP is clear. People who don't want to type and professionals who want to work faster. It's pretty broad, but I mean, I signed up and I'm a fractional. I'm not a full-time employee.
Yeah, I have a rapid fire round in which I ask people one
Yeah.
tool or software that they swear by and can't live without. Whisperflow. That's it.
I'm in love
Um,
with, for now, I'm in love with it.
for now, the next week we will see there's another one for the
You
most
know, I
part.
like to test these different tools and see what works for my tech stack.
Yeah. Is there another one that you really like, or is the Whisperflow is the one that is kind of like creme de la creme of what you have seen in terms of all things?
That's the one that's made me starry-eyed over the last week.
All right. On.
So that's probably my favorite right now. But I will say I'm also building an AI product as well. So I think this is a good
Oh,
opportunity for me to pitch
what is it
that.
about?
So my co-founder and I are building a product specific to people who are solopreneurs, like fractionals, consultants, freelancers, agency owners. What our product does is it is almost like an AI chief of staff that follows you throughout your day. It records all your tasks, all your meetings, all your to-dos, summarizes everything for you, and then will actually do some of the work too. Like I mentioned earlier, being a solopreneur and a
Mhm.
fractional, I'm not only managing inbounds and my
Yeah.
brand and all of these things, but I'm actually doing work for my clients. And so our whole tagline is you didn't go fractional to do admin work. And so our AI product saves you about 8 hours a week and helps you to be more productive. And so if anyone's interested, go to joinjuggle.com. You can sign up. And we're hoping to have our beta in market over the next few months.
Fingers crossed. I hope
Thank
you.
you.
I hope you knock it out of the park. Are you going to bootstrap it?
100%. Well, to a certain point.
Listen, I was.
Are with the engineering team that we've been working with and a lot of the behind the scenes work, it's our own money that we're putting into it. But the goal is get it to a stage where we go, this thing is growing fast. We need more engineers. We need more marketing money. We need X, Y, and Z. So let's go raise.
I have. I was speaking to Abby about this. So I have all the faith in the world for. I mean, just after speaking the amount of knowledge you have and the experience, I think it's going to be a walk in the park for you. But like I said,
I
cheering
hope
from the
so.
sideline
Knock
for
on
you.
wood.
Not get vote exactly. There you go. This has been fantastic. I want to do a quick rapid fire round, Rochelle. Very quick questions, quick
Let's do it.
answers. Best advice you've received, business or personal?
Outsource. Outsource what you
Really?
don't want to do. Yeah.
Oh, to you.
Especially
Okay.
for women. Outsource.
I'm gonna preface that. Actually, print out T-shirts and send them over to you. I think this is perfect. Outsource,
Yeah.
Rachel. That's perfect. Outsource in the form of VAs. You mean like even if you're like a fractional, just push that out?
Everything. One of my bosses when I was at McDonald had 5 kids. It was a blended family. And she went on to become the
Nice.
basically CEO of McDonald's in Switzerland right now. And
Oh wow.
one of her tips to me at the time, she just had a 9-month-old. She goes, "I outsource everything. I want the time that I have to spend with my family, and then
Yeah.
otherwise I'm working or doing other things. I don't want us on a Saturday afternoon to be at home doing our laundry and cleaning the house. We outsource everything."
Right.
And for fractional solopreneurs as well, if you can, outsource or use Juggle.
Wow. Here's juggle. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Advice you ignored or wish you had listened to.
Mm. I'm so stumped on that question. I think because I don't have any regrets. I think the only thing is I wish I had started investing when I was younger. I was really in
Oh.
savings mode in my 20s because I worked at a savings bank. But I wasn't so focused on
Gee, I
investing.
wonder
I
why.
also right, and I also wish like I this wasn't advice I was given, but it's a regret. Life regret is I wish that I had entered tech earlier.
Already.
Yeah.
Interesting. I feel like I should leave tech already, but you're talking about joining tech. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking about all those companies that IPO'd and all those missed opportunities, you know?
Oof. Yeah, 100%. I don't know. I like for me, I think like tech is a great stepping stone.
Mm,
But nah, I'm okay with fishing. I'm okay with cutting grass. I'm not gonna outsource any of those activities, but
you're right.
it
Yeah.
sounds really interesting. What would you tell your younger self, say 7 to 10 years ago, other
I'd
than
say
invest early?
oh, well, yeah. Nothing. I'd say like you are on the right track and any hurdles that are going to come your way, any challenges, any difficulties, none of that's going to matter, right? Like you're going to end up where you need to be and it's going to be great.
Well, my money is on you. If there's a challenge headed your way, I want to have that mentality,
Okay.
because I suck. The challenges
No,
headed
don't say
my
that.
way. No, but I also got kids. I have kids. I've got a dog, and I have the whole thing. So I always have to look at it from a very defensive lens
For
when
sure.
things are headed my way. An ongoing challenge in your current work that keeps you up at night.
I think for me, it's being that solopreneur and doing everything myself and trying to make the decision of do I bring on a partner do I need a second arm? Can I manage it myself? Because sometimes things grow. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And then sometimes they retract. And that's kind of just like the model of the work that we do. And so I've been thinking deeply about what does that structure and system look like for me?
Absolutely. Favorite restaurant, meal, or a spot around you?
Nothing around me where I live, but my
Nothing around
favorite.
you. Got it.
I'm a big foodie, so this is a really difficult question. But there is a restaurant in Spain, in Barcelona, that I love. It's called La Plata, and they don't even really have seats. There's maybe like 4 tables in there. It's in Barcelona. You go up to the bar, you order. It's simple food. It's like tomato, onions, olive oil, and salt. That's one of their dishes. It's their salad. They have sardines, fried sardines. They have sausage. It's very much like a spot where you go and you just eat really delicious food, hang out, talk to people, and then continue your night. And that's a restaurant that I love.
La Plata
Hmm.
in Barcelona. Right on. Cool. I'll check it out. I love tapas. Like, I
Yeah.
think that could be really fun. You already said the tool is Whisper Flow. I'm gonna
Hmm.
tag them, see if they get a response out of them. It'll be
Yeah.
a pretty fun conversation. We can
They
get
want
on
to
with that
send
one.
me like a year for free. I'll take it.
Yeah, why not, dude?
Something
Hey,
cool.
this gets a lot of views, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, it's been fantastic, Rochelle. It was great chatting with you. I love the energy, I love the feedback that you gave, and of course, a lot of the experience that you shared. I really appreciate it. Where can listeners find you? LinkedIn, website, community? Where can they go ahead
Yeah.
and take a look at?
You can find me at RashelHariri.com, and you can also find me on LinkedIn, also Rashel Hariri, Rashel, last name Hariri. I have to spell it because people spell my name wrong all the time.
We're gonna make
Um,
sure they don't.
Thank you. I appreciate you. So yeah, that's the best way to get in contact with me.
Perfect. Any upcoming project, launch, talk, or event that you're excited about other than your own product?
Yeah, I think the main thing is my own product that I'm working on, and I'm also working on a spin-off of my services that is just the sales arm. Like I was mentioning earlier,
Oh, right
the
on.
in-depth customized training. I'm calling it Deal Method. So more to come on that. I'm
Wow.
just in the early stages right now.
Where did you come up with the name?
It just came to me. I was
Deal method. That's
brainstorming.
very meta. Deal,
Yeah.
the
I
deal method.
was
The
I was
deal
just
method.
brainstorming on a sheet and going, this is driving me crazy. What am I going to call this?
Yeah.
And then I was putting different words together and I go, oh, deal method. Because that's what I'm doing is I'm helping them close and increase their conversions and their deal rates.
Is it deal method or the deal method?
Just deal method.
Oh,
Right
okay.
now I have the URL dealmethod.co. There's nothing there, but eventually there will be.
Okay, cool. Because I was gonna give you that Facebook advice. Drop the.
Oh, yep.
No, this is perfect. Rochelle, thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This conversation, very valuable. Folks, if you got value out of this, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.